Welcome back to Just Giants with Grump and the Cranky Fan, the best damn podcast for the best damn football team. I am your host, the Football Grump, and with me as always is Mike the Cranky Fan.
Hello, Grump. I know the game ran late Monday, so we had to sleep an extra 24 hours. So that's why you're getting this show on Thursday instead. Wait, what day is today? We're
Today's
recording this
Wednesday.
on a Wednesday?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
they're
that's
going
why
to get
you're
it
getting
Thursday morning, yeah.
That's why you're getting this on Thursday as opposed to Wednesday, because we just had to sleep it through. So, we've reached the part of the season, and we've reached the level of incompetence with this team and lack of winning that we are slowly becoming numb to losses. Not that we are up all night really mad of a loss. It's just that hopeless feeling of another one. And the Giants find a way to lose again.
Yeah, more soul-searching than frustration or raw emotion. But I will say, they lost 20-17, real close game. Had the lead at one point in the fourth quarter. I believe 17-14 in the fourth quarter with let's say 6 minutes left in the game or something like that. I will say that I don't think we were in a good, even though it was late, I don't think we were necessarily in a good spot to discuss the game objectively immediately after the game ended. But I was prepared to do a complete ridiculous episode if they had won. I don't know if you were. I still had the Luigi mustache because I had that for the episode that we did. And then I went to bed like Sunday night right after I did all the editing for it. And then, Monday I got to wake up and go to work. I didn't have time. So I just rocked a mustache all day. And I was like, I'll keep it if we win this game. It was close.
It'll never come off again.
Yeah.
You'll be like Raleigh Fingers, man. Just
yeah.
Mustache
It just keeps going out. It just keeps getting longer.
I mean,
this one was brutal. This is a tough pill to swallow a little bit when you think about it. When you rewatch it, it's a tougher pill to swallow for me.
Yeah, what it is, Grump, and you strip away all of the narratives of the game. You strip away the fact that the Giants are probably an average team at full strength, and with all the injuries, they're decimated. You strip away the fact that Kansas City, is the defending AFC champions and have the most, dynamic quarterback in the league, but they are struggling now. You strip away all of that. And I always say this, what's past is prologue. And at that moment, with 7 minutes left, it's a team in blue versus a team in red. And the team in blue is up by, was leading this game. So it's frustrating when you find a way to have losers lose, which we are certainly in a 10-year run of. But did I stay up all night and just being very upset about it? No. Unfortunately, once you take a step back from that moment in time of a team in red and a team in blue, and you look at the state of this franchise and how the losses keep mounting, that I'm getting numb to the losses, and that's not a good sign. That's not a sign that I'm giving up anything. I'm not gonna not watch anymore. But it's just, you get beaten down so much, and another loss is another loss, no matter how frustrating or heartbreaking it is. And that's unfortunately where I am right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't know, because we previewed this game, and I was much more offended, annoyed, frustrated. That so many in the national stage, I understand, don't have the insight to the Giants, and they get the lazy reporting of just quick highlights of Daniel Jones tripping over his shoelaces or getting sack fumbled or something like that.
We still call him a turnover machine, which that's not the case.
Exactly, right? I understand that is the national, thing. The Chiefs aren't in our conference. They're not in our division. They're not close to us geographically. There's no reason for them to know inward details of our team because we're not good enough to be in the national spotlight or anything like that anyway. So I was frustrated that people who do this for a living or put a lot of effort into doing it for a hobby, I guess, completely looked over the Giants, didn't bother to do the research at all, and you could tell in their fake analysis. And I was like still, even after all of that, like knowing that the Chiefs aren't really that much better than us this year. I don't take away the fact that they are probably still AFC contenders. Like, their current run, I viewed it the same way the Panthers, right? The Panthers game, I said the same shit. I know they got off to a hot start, whatever, but they're on a 3-game losing streak, man. They are not figuring this out. There's a path here. And I noticed the same things with the Chiefs. I just understood that was a more uphill, sledding than a Panthers game. And so we still previewed this game like, I don't think it's going to be necessarily close. I had us as a 10-point loss. But I did think it would be close through the first half.
Well, the difference between Carolina and New England and Kansas City is Carolina was pretty banged up.
Absolutely, yeah.
And Kansas City is just playing poorly. Now, whether that is a little complacency, a little, maybe a little exhaustion. I mean, this team has made deep runs in the playoffs the last couple of years, and you're in week 7 of a regular season where you're kind of maybe going through the motions a little bit. Their season is getting short rather quickly, and they better turn on the switch ASAP if they want to get back to the playoffs, much less defend their AFC championship. But again, they still have a lot more talent than we do, and I'm going to start with talent.
Yeah,
over
I agree.
Anything else, talent and depth, and I think at some point the light switch is going to go off for Kansas City, and they'll be fine. But the longer this season goes on, the more you're like, well, is it going to go on? There's other things happening, but that's not my problem. We don't do the Just Chiefs podcast. Good luck to them, and Godspeed. I'm not going to really think about them much more the rest of the year. The question is, the product that was on the field for them and the product on the field for us, with 8 minutes left or 6 minutes left, was a dead even game, and we snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, like we do so many times.
So let's start backwards with this game. I guess at the very end of the game, the timeout situation, right? So with like 2 minutes and 40 or so seconds on the clock, we have one timeout. It's 2nd down and goal, I think, for the Chiefs. And Joe Judge decides at that point to hold that last timeout until after the 2-minute warning. I'm legitimately asking, I'm not taking a strong stand on any side here, but I don't understand, and maybe you can explain it to me, or maybe I'm right, I don't know. I don't understand why you wouldn't take the timeout at 2 minutes and 40 seconds and leave them at 3rd and goal to run it down to the 2-minute warning then. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just different coaches have different philosophies, whether they want to, have those timeouts in your pocket or stop it immediately. I was actually even considering, I think I might have texted you, it's like, maybe just let them score. Because
I think
they're probably going to score anyway, so you might maybe just, maximize your time, maximize your timeouts, and see what you can do.
Now, I see. Look, I think that's a legitimate strategy, but I think that's when you have the opposite situation that the Giants have. Monday night, the Giants' defense was on fire. The Giants' offense, while they did score 17 points, 2 touchdowns for Daniel Jones throwing the ball, they didn't. First of all, were definitely not consistent, and second of all, they were moving the ball kind of, sort of. There was a lot of like penalties and things helping out the offense, which I'm not their problem but they were several times going backwards, and then punting, and then 2 touchdown drives, and
right.
So when your offense is the sputtering side, I don't let them score. I want play to your strength. Your defense is your strength right now. Try and stop them. But I think that's a legit strategy. What you're saying?
Yeah, I was just thinking about probabilities and like, what is the probability that we're going to hold them from scoring?
I get it.
And
I understand.
I thought it was pretty low. So something, if they're going to do it, let them do it. Let's have as much time and much opportunity, the other way. So that was my thing. But I thought about that for a little bit. I think I even texted you about that. And I was like, well, let's let it play out and see what does happen. But these are the moments. The most important moments for a coach are end of game, clock management. these things, and
stop us if you've heard this conversation before.
And stop us if you heard us with previous coaches as well. I mean,
True.
I remember that Atlanta game, that Monday night game, or Sunday night game. Was it Sunday or Monday? Went to Atlanta.
I think it was Monday.
It was, that's right. We had the Chick-fil-A there, so it was Monday. We're commenting on that. But I remember being pretty pissed at Pat Shurmur. Like this same type of situation of like just the crazy use of timeouts. And, I don't know if this is something where, these are young coaches and first-time head coaches that are trying to learn on the job with this. But this to me seems kind of like coaching 101. And isn't that why you have, assistant coaches and coordinators and specialists on your staff? They're kind of, if you are trying to micromanage a team and all these things you have to think about, someone should be dedicated to clock management and things. And I don't understand. And then, I know he gave this ridiculous thing about the headphones was causing also, which just seems like a ridiculous excuse.
Here's the thing about that. I don't really want to comment on it because I don't really understand the nuances of the communication systems in the NFL. So I am not educated enough to take a strong stance on whether that's smart or dumb. What I can talk about is optics, and it sounded and looked stupid to say. And he may be 100% right, and he may have been dealing with, his staff may have been dealing, from what I can gather, it was not the coach-to-player communication, it is the coach-to-coach communication on the sideline, and they're different systems.
There's a way to solve that. There's an immediate way to, if it's not working, you stop the game, you go to the ref, you tell him that headphones come off on both teams, end of story. So if he's having an issue with this the entire game, he's at a disadvantage because he can't communicate with his coaches, and he's at a competitive disadvantage because the other team still can. That's just stupid. I mean, if that's what he said as an excuse, if he doesn't understand what the rules are.
Well, from what I also gather, it will only be if it's a total system failure that the other team has to do that. And I think, now, this is me speculating, there was one point in the game where Joe Judge seemed to be talking to the officials. Nobody really seemed to understand why. It happened like kind of after a penalty of some kind, and I don't remember which one it was, but everybody was in agreement that the penalty was obvious, so it didn't seem like he was arguing about that. He did have his headset off and in his hand. Maybe he did tell the officials, and they explained to him that it has to be a full... I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm not even on his side. I don't think he should have ever said it. He may be completely correct, and that it's a thing where he brought it to the officials. They told him that's not how the rule works. You got to figure it out, and it put him at a competitive disadvantage, and he's frustrated about it. But don't say it because, A, this is not the Indiana Hoosiers media that are just gonna that they're gonna let that go. I mean, that's that's gonna be in all caps fucking print on the back page of whatever.
Hey, listen, media has changed over the years because I'm dealing with the same optics problem with my head coach at University of Florida, where it used to be 20, 30, 40 years ago that the hometown, newspaper guy protected the program and, made the head coach and the team kind of like, up here in the clouds and in the heavens, never saying a bad word. Now when Dan Mullen says something stupid, and which happens on a nightly basis lately, he gets destroyed by the local media. Never mind the national media, who's, circling the pool, sniffing out blood. So there is no more protecting of your coach and your team by the locals, no matter how small a town is or something is. When you get to a place as major as New York, where it's so cutthroat trying to, break a story, that's the worst thing. So he's going to learn very quickly that saying optics are extremely important, and keeping the fan base on your side, especially when this team is 2-6, especially with all the noise about Dave Gettleman and his future and wasted picks and injuries and, Mara, think twice before you speak, because you're not helping yourself.
I'm a fan of a lot of the things Joe Judge does still. I think it's, if you picked any head coach in the NFL, Bill Belichick included, I can find something about them that I think they don't do very well. So when I nitpick, and I don't think this is nitpicking. I these are legit criticisms. I have a problem with Joe Judge's time management. I think at this point I can say that definitively. I think I have a problem with him being as conservative as he is. I think that's another thing. But one thing I never had a problem with him from day one, the thing I thought he was probably the best at was communicating to the media. I really think that he's probably handled the New York media better than most coaches that have been here in the last couple cycles. I mean, Ben McAdoo's probably the worst by far. Pat Shurmur wasn't great. Tom Coughlin had his moments. The media and him kind of grew around. Yeah, but prior to winning a Super Bowl, he was not, a big. He was not popular with the media, and then even following the 2011 Super Bowl run, those waning years, 2012 through 2015, he had his moments then too. I never really had an issue with Joe Judge in the media. This was a dumb thing in my opinion.
Well,
just don't say it. Whatever. Like
I think pressure is mounting on everybody.
Absolutely, yes.
And again, for most of you who don't really care about the University of Florida, I'm going to say this kind of again. It's like there are such stark parallels between the trajectory of the Florida football program and the Giants right now, where they're just, for whatever reasons, are not winning games. They're losing. You can say what you want about injuries. You can say what you want about this, that, and the other, but the bottom line is, both teams are losing, and both teams are having issues with the perception of what's coming out of their coach's mouth. In Florida, they issued a media silence this week where Mullen's press conference was 5 minutes. He ended it. The coordinators are not allowed to speak to the media, and no interviews this week at all, period. And that's because they're losing, and they are feeling the heat. They don't want the outside noise. And the Giants, Joe Judge, Graham, Garrett, they all know. What do you think? They don't have Twitter? I mean, if you and I can see this stuff, you can bet your ass guys like that who are, narcissists to begin with, just on the fact of what kind of job they have and how they, get to the top, they hear all what's going on and they don't want to deal with it. So I think is the first time you're seeing, I'm not going to say Joe Judge is on the hot seat, but the first time he's feeling pressure that, the honeymoon you get from being a new coach, it's over. And now you're being treated based on what your record is and what his track record. And his track record now is almost 2 years. The win-loss percentage is awful. And that's not all his fault, but parts of it are. You said the things that, that you like about Judge and some of the things you're not too happy with. Something that is not making me very happy with this team, and it's very concerning, is just, again, the lack of attention to detail and the lack of discipline on this team.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, right there. Go ahead. Go.
And again, I'm going to give a tiny bit of a pass because you have guys coming in and out of the rotation, in and out of the starting lineup, in and out on the field that probably have no business being on an NFL field. And, there's no, the offensive line's not playing together anymore. The secondary scrambled. So I get that sometimes you may get some, procedural mistakes from guys, because they just haven't been working together. But the personal fouls and the taunting, I mean, who the hell taunts anybody when you're 2-6 and you're the ass of the league? That's what this team is right now. And just, I don't know where these guys' heads are. I don't know what repercussions are being, if you make a stupid mistake, I don't see these guys leaving the field and sitting and being benched. So that makes me wonder what's being done behind the scenes to punish these guys and to get their heads on straight, because this team is getting sloppier and sloppier and more undisciplined. And it's bad enough that the talent on the field is suffering because A, it's an roster to begin with, and B, it's so banged up. But giving the other team extra first downs, extra yardage, extra opportunities is basically putting the nail in the coffin for these games. Very winnable games. This game could have been won if this team was more disciplined. And they weren't, and we didn't.
Yeah, I'll second that for sure. I'm less worried about what they're doing to punish guys that screw this up and more worried about the preparation here. I understand that there's two sides to it, but listen, from a coaching perspective for me, when I'm coming into this game, I see the Tyrann Matthews on this team, the Tariq Hills, and Kadarius Toney was under control. Everybody in the media had questions about him and if he's going to talk to this guy and what he's going to do if he talks to you. It wasn't Kadarius Toney that was the problem there. It was Eli Penny and Colin Johnson. That, to me,
in the grand scheme of the NFL, who the hell are Eli Penny and Colin Johnson? Seriously.
And Eli Penny's was frustrating because it was after such a key big play, he just completely negated the play. They put them right back where they were. It was massive. To me, that signals not preparing. I mean, if I can be like, I'm worried about, and the media too, is asking a specific player about a player-to-player interaction. There are people with reputations about Tom. I mean, Tyrann Mathieu went into Tom Brady's face in the Super Bowl. I mean, what you're up against with this team.
The guy's been a bitch since he was at LSU. He was the same way.
And Andy Reid's Eagles were always Andy Reid's Eagles. I mean, I know this about this team. Why are your fringe players not prepared? You know what I mean? You're not getting your guys prepared to walk away, to not give up the cheap stuff. And, what's silly is that they're operating completely hamstrung on offense. I mean, the overwhelming injuries on offense to an already thin roster. I mean, we felt very good about the starters, but we knew that there was no depth. And now all the depth are the starters. You're playing so far behind the 8 ball. And the only reason that the Giants were, sustaining drives were stupid fucking penalties by the Chiefs. And the Chiefs actually out-penaltied us. If it were just the simple things under control, that may have actually been enough, the penalties.
Yeah.
I mean leaving off the table that we can have a whole conversation about O'Shane Ximines' penalty. That's a whole separate event.
This team has to play almost perfect against anybody to win because, we're just roster and injuries means we have to play a cleaner game, a smarter game, a better game than the opposition to try to win. Again, giving them first downs, giving them extra yardage, giving them field position when they don't earn it, it's a death sentence for this team. And again, that's a good reason why we lost.
Let's talk about O'Shane Ximines' penalty. This is interesting to me because he jumps off sides. It was the Chiefs' final drive that led to the points. They were in their own end of the field. I can't remember where the play ended, but it was a free play. He threw a bad pick to Darnay Holmes, who jumped the route, and I think he ended up getting tackled eventually in the red zone. So that you can pinpoint and say there was a good chance, there is a much better chance the Giants win this game by going up at least 20-17. Leaving the Chiefs to go down the field in a minute, 2 minutes, which obviously they can do, but the Giants had completely wiped out the big play from the Chiefs all game. So it would have been pretty difficult for them. It would not have been a gimme. My question to you is, did Mahomes only throw that pass because he knew it was a free play? Because I'm not so sure that he did. I don't think he saw Darnay Holmes at all.
I think it's possible. I mean, the guy he's one of the greatest improvisational quarterbacks I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. The way he just, we've all seen the arm angles and doing this and throwing across his body and the no looks, and the decision making he makes is so quick that I believe so.
Which one?
That he knew it was a free play and just improv on the fly on it.
Okay. I think he knew it was a free play, but I think he had time in the pocket, and so it's possible. I'm willing to give it up, but I mean, after rewatching it, because my initial reaction was like, Jesus Christ, if only he didn't jump offside. Of course, right? And then the more I thought about it, I was like, well, I mean, we all knew he was offsides, probably free play. But then I rewatched the game, and, I thought he sat in the pocket, really looked, and I don't think he saw Darnay Holmes at all. I think he really just thought he had an open guy and just got jumped. Right. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But that play in particular, super killer right there. I mean, I don't know if I have words in my vocabulary to describe how how unnecessary and frustrating that penalty is.
Yeah, I mean that's what bad teams do. I mean, every loss by a bad team you can kind of circle and say self-imposed mistake, self-imposed. Not that they beat us on a particular play. It's just we keep banging our heads against the wall and we keep getting ourselves bloody because of it. And that's what makes it more aggravated when it's self-imposed.
Yeah.
And it's becoming a trend. This is not a bad day. Like, even talking about Joe Judge and the decision making, it's like, players have bad days, coaches have bad days. And you can say, every game isn't a referendum on, and we try not to do this on the show.
Right.
Make every game a referendum on the state of the program. Well, every game is not a referendum on Joe Judge. Every game is not a referendum on Daniel Jones. It's how'd you do this particular day? And on this particular day, Joe Judge was not at his best. And but the trend of this team for playing sloppy, playing undisciplined, playing stupid, it's not a one-game thing. It's developing over time. It's getting worse.
I agree. I like to try my best to write down the things. I mean, I don't need to try. It's part of what I do for this, right? We write down our stars and farts, and maybe I didn't announce that Joe Judge's clock management, no Shane Ziminis were my farts for this episode. But, I do this specifically when I say Joe Judge's clock management. I don't just write Joe Judge. And the reason why is because I don't view anybody in their entirety by their accomplishments and their mistakes individually, the things that they do. Because there's ways to grade a person beyond the one aspect of their job. And that way I can kind of tally along how many times Joe Judge's clock management comes up for me. And then I can get a better picture of where we are. And that way it's not... I don't have to do the caveat of... I mentioned Joe Judge in the Chiefs game, but I mean the Chiefs, did I really expect them to win? Blah, 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 blah. And that's a fair argument because my initial thought was, this is another game, but I totally thought they were going to lose by at least 10. I thought the second half would get away from them. But that doesn't excuse his clock management. And that way I can still point to his clock management and say, this is a problem. This is a real problem that in real terms of this game, we fucked up.
Yeah, and I say this all the time. I say it on Twitter all the time. I say it to you, Grump, all the time. I say it to my wife all the time. What's past is prologue. What happened up to a certain point is irrelevant. Something where, there's a bad call at the end of a game. And, my dad, he always does this. He gives me he shouldn't have been there in the first place in this situation. It doesn't matter. They were in this situation. And then the bad call happened or something. So... that's kind of like what this game was. It doesn't matter how good the Chiefs are or if they're slumping or not or what the Giants' story is. At that moment, when we're, 3 minutes left and it's a tight game, all of that stuff is nonsense. It doesn't matter. It's how do you execute? How do you play call? How do you handle your timeouts? How do you block? How do you throw a pass? How do you complete a catch? Do you keep your feet in bound? Do you hit the extra point? Does the kick get shanked? All that stuff is nothing to do with what happened for the first 55 minutes. And this team finds ways in that final 5 minutes or in those critical spots. So it is a one play screws you, no matter what happened before. And it's just, maybe it's just because, the season's getting away from it. And now there's this feeling of, they're not winning, they're not making the playoffs, and they can see January and the end of the year already, which would be horrible since it's November 3rd. I don't know. That's culture, and that falls on two people, two groups, the coaching staff and the captains / leaders of this team. Can't blame all this on just the coaches to say there has to be some sort of self policing within that locker room by peers. I know. A few of the captains are on IR and they're not, with the team is, often like a guy like Gates or someone, but someone has to hold this team accountable from within and within their own ranks. And I just don't see that right now. That's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple guys. I think like maybe Logan Ryan. I think Jabril Peppers. Like you mentioned some guys on IR.
Yeah, he's not in the locker room anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean that's fair. I don't know that Daniel Jones is that guy. I think he's probably closer to the Eli Manning guy, where he holds guys accountable, but not on that what you consider a typical leader way of being very vocal and involved with everybody.
You don't have to be vocal. I mean, you don't have to have the the fire and brimstone speech. Not everyone's a Michael Strahan, but being a captain and being a leader means you are the leader of men. And I don't know. I'm not in that locker room. I haven't really read any stories from any insiders about what's going on in that locker room right now. But it just seems like there aren't a lot of leaders leading this team, and self-policing and self-discipline, and it's showing on the field.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I come away with is I don't really know that there was anybody on the offensive side of the ball other than Nick Gates, maybe. Nick Gates said, he took it very personally. I think he said that he almost cried, got somewhat emotional when he was, received his captainship, took it very seriously. I believe that, and I know that Saquon Barkley is the same thing, but
Saquon Barkley being a captain is kind of silly. I mean, it's only his fourth year. He's been out a lot, for long stretches of time. I mean, a guy like Sterling Shepard's been there much longer time. It feels like he's been active more. He's been a part of.
Yeah, but I don't really reward seniority with captainship. I reward leadership with captainship.
Yeah,
I
guess.
I mean, I'm not saying that Saquon Barkley is a leader and therefore deserves a C. I'm just saying if Saquon Barkley in his rookie year came out there and really was being a captain, I'm not going to deny him that just because it's his rookie year.
Well, I'm talking more of the, not being around all the time because he's hurt. It's like
that, and that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, that not so. I mean, I think there's some of these rookie quarterbacks are captains already. I think if we look around the league. I mean, they just
you're probably right. I don't really pay attention to other captains.
Last year, I want to say Joe Burrow was the captain last year with Cincinnati.
I mean, it's possible. Who else would you pick?
Yeah, but guys like him are just, you saw it at LSU. This guy's got it. He's got that leadership ability. He commands a presence in a huddle, on the field, a press conference. A guy like Peyton Manning was like that as well.
Peyton held people accountable. I mean, it was I love looking at video of Peyton yelling at his teammates.
I love pictures of video of him in Tennessee going 0-4 against Florida, but again, that's for the Just Gators podcast. But
that's like a voicemail for you. You just say Peyton Manning, it's like boop. I like watching Peyton Manning go 0-4 to Florida.
I think the Tony George pick in the '97 game might be my ringtone right now, but but we digress again because
I'm not trying to compliment sandwich this or anything, but I have to say, we expected this to be a much, worse game in terms of points and what the Giants were going to have to shoot. The word shootout was thrown out a lot as the only way they were going to win. Well, Patrick Graham's defense really, really held the Chiefs back.
Well, let me ask you something, Grump. And, we watched the game, obviously Monday. You watched the tape again. How much would you say is Patrick Graham's defense, his scheme versus the execution of the scheme versus the kind of malaise / incompetence of the Kansas City offense right now that kept the score low and in check?
I posit to you that taking advantage of what the Chiefs aren't good at is playing good defense.
Yeah.
So and I outlined all of this. This was my defensive path for victory. Do not allow a single thing deep. Nothing. Keep everything down. This team makes mistakes trying to force things. So make them force things. Make them try and force the deep shots. Make them fit it into tight windows. And we saw what happens when you do that. Patrick Mahomes, volleyball spiked somebody in the end zone. And then, we got a pop-up interception, Julian Love. by playing for Jabril Peppers. You know what I mean? Coming in there and making a pick. You saw all sorts of these crazy arm angles. Yeah, sometimes they're completions. Sometimes he's off. Sometimes he's just missing his guys. Travis Kelce.
Deep too.
Yeah, but because they weren't open. I mean, he wasn't missing open guys deep. They allowed nothing deep. This was in my opinion, my humble opinion is it was my opinion to begin with. This was a well-called game by Patrick Graham. I mean, you made them. Tyreek Hill had under 100 yards on 12 catches.
Yeah.
I mean, they really kept everything short. If you told me Travis Kelce left this game on the first drive, I'd believe you looking at a stat line.
And then even so, like, it didn't feel like they had 1,000 first downs either.
No, they were struggling, man.
What was the time possession breakdown? Because you would think if you're doing a bend don't break like we're talking about, they would have just been marching down the field slowly but surely, We couldn't get him in the end zone, and then you look up and it's like 42 to 18 for time possession. But it didn't feel like that's the way it was.
I mean, it was 35-25.
All right. I mean, that's the fringe upper limit of not being lopsided.
You also have to understand, like, the first quarter was almost entirely Kansas City's opening drive because after 2 plays, we gave it right back up, and then they, scored a touchdown. So, the whole first quarter was Kansas City drive. And that's not an excuse, but, I mean, the game didn't really reflect that kind of breakdown, in my opinion. But what I will say is when the Giants moved the ball, they had the big chunk plays. They had penalties adding on to chunk plays. The Devontae Booker had that. Oh, my God. Did we figure out how to run checkdowns and screens? Finally? Right? I mean, we finally figured out the timing of when to release on a block and turn around for the pass so that you don't already have guys screaming down on you. It seems like we finally figured out some timing stuff. But we had that Booker big play, and then I think there was a roughing the passer on top of it. And then the other one was the launch to John Ross, which I'm going to jump on my second. Maybe he's a star, maybe he's an honorable mention. Is John Ross the most underrated free agent signing we've had this offseason since everybody else hasn't really panned out yet? Maybe Adoree Jackson has.
I would say Adoree Jackson's. I mean, he's had, the highlights, the highs have been very high with John Ross. They've been highlight film type plays. We're not getting much the consistency, and I'd still consider him our third receiver, even with all the injuries right now.
Yeah, but see, the way I view it is that John Ross was signed to do just that. And we kind of looked at it like, well, if he can do just that, it's a home run, but he's got a lot of drops. But he hasn't, the dropsies haven't killed us yet. He's been a little hampered by a hammy. There's that too, but
his drops haven't been as bad as some other people on this team who've been with this team for a while.
Yeah. So, but to me, if you told me, if we can get John Ross on a bomb in this game, that'll definitely help. Absolutely. If we can hit John Ross on a bomb in this game, that's instrumental. Hit him twice on 2 plays there.
Even if something, he just, now that he's caught a couple, he puts a little bit of the fear of God into you, because now you can even, take a shot once or twice a game, or the defense will be prepared for you to take that shot, even if they're not. Plays like that to me are always setting up other things later in the game, and if you don't connect on that bomb early in the game, they're thinking about it, and you loosen up the defense a little bit for other things that may happen. So when we don't have a guy like him who can stretch the field, and you're taking a shot, you're going to see safeties creeping in more. You're going to see more of this. But when he's on the field, and they can see now there's been a couple of completions he's had, big time ones, you have to have him in the back of your mind, and that changes a lot of things for how you can game plan offensively.
I actually think that the reverse is true. I mean, you get a couple of bombs with him. Like that play, first of all, completely mugged and still got the catch. That is some Steve Spagnuolo defense if I've ever seen it.
But something that's the league now. It's like, take more shots, because
I agree.
You're almost as likely to get the PI than you are the completion. So it's like there's 3 possible outcomes, and the offense gets 2 of the 3 on those plays.
Yeah. I think getting those bombs allows the comeback routes to work, because now, with John Ross's speed, and by the way, I really like the idea of collecting Kadarius Toney's speed, Darius Slayton's speed, John Ross's speed, and Dante Pettis' speed ain't so bad either. And CJ Board's speed isn't that bad either. I like the idea of collecting a lot of speed on the outside. It feels like we didn't have speed for a bit.
Yeah, that's the game now. That's what it is. It's getting separation. And
my issue is that we don't deploy them, like to do that often. But whatever.
Like,
that's
again. Let's be a little fair now. It's like we don't have the
I get it. Yeah. No, I get it.
In a perfect universe, I think things are different. And again, I think I texted to you, or I might have tweeted during the game. It's somebody's complaining about Garrett. It's like, is this really the Garrett offense? Is this really what he's trying to do? How much is he being hampered by the personnel that he has to deploy as opposed to what in a perfect universe he could do? And it's not just, well, one guy is out. It's, 3/5 of the offensive line. At some points, 3 best receivers. Your franchise running back. For a little bit this year, your quarterback had his brains, eggs scrambled a little bit too. So, we can't do what we'd like to because we don't have on the current roster, the active roster, the personnel to allow you to execute it. And don't forget, it's not an excuse. It is a fact. And every time I keep going back to it, I mean, I'm in a text group with the guys we sit with in section 124, and they, I love them all. But, everything is like, well, Garrett, that's like, guys, look at the injuries. Look what's going on. That explains a lot of this.
Yeah.
And it's true.
I want to get to Garrett in just a moment, but before we switch off from Graham, I'm just going to point this out. To put it in sheer numbers, they didn't have Jabril Peppers, Blake Martinez, or Lorenzo Carter for this game. And they held an offense that, while it's been struggling, we both know what this offense is capable of even this year.
And they'll break out at some point. We know that. We just don't know when.
Managed to hold them to 20 points. Now, to put that in perspective, this year, this is the year they've been struggling. So this is the year to compare it against. Despite struggling, the Chiefs were only held to 20 points or fewer twice so far, the Bills and Titans. In the other contests, though, 33 points, 35 points, 24 points, 42 points, 31 points. And the Bills and Titans, by the way, those are 2 Super Bowl conversation teams.
Well, Titans were. Now they got a big problem.
Well,
but,
okay, fair. But when the Chiefs faced them, yes.
Of course, right. We're not talking about a team that was before the injuries happened. We're talking about legitimate title contending
teams.
Yes,
and we are the before the injuries happened. I didn't have lofty Super Bowl expectations for this team at full strength. At full strength, I thought they'd go 9 and 8 now, or 10 and 7, somewhere around there.
We were around 8 and 9, 9 and 8. We were both kind of
that's
above or just below the 500, which is
like the 6th, 7th wild card spot. That's not that, and that's and if you told me the injuries by week 1 and then by week 3, I'd be like, we're not making the playoffs with those guys injured. There's no way. We're not good enough to overcome that. There's no reason this game should have been close, and it was. And I think that's due to Patrick Graham's excellent scheming to keep the points down, to keep it competable, for Jason Garrett to get creative enough to make something out of the mush that he's got to deal with. I'm not giving him a pass. He was not perfect, Jason Garrett, but I don't really know how you even draw up an offense to go against a Chiefs team with this. I don't know. And they found ways to do it. I'm going to give some credit. There has been some creativity here with Jason Garrett. I mean, the Kadarius Toney pass, everything about that was awesome. We had crossing route over, and what a laser of a throw by Toney. Maybe if he led him a little bit, it'd be even better. But there's that I liked. On the first red zone drive there, the 3rd and goal play. I wish it was called on the 2nd and goal. They kind of had like some guys out. They put Shepard in motion and then hit him on the motion for like a wide receiver bubble screen. It didn't work, which is why I would have preferred it on 2nd down but it's almost guaranteed yards. They only needed like 4. They got like 3. I mean, why that's not called more often, I don't know. But it's a good play to call there, and he called it. There's a reason that the Giants scored 2 touchdowns in this game. A lot of it was luck. Some of it was being able to have some level of script and game planning to move the ball. You know what I mean? Get chunk plays. Take advantage of things here or there. I think he did a pretty good job. The things that he screwed up are the same things that I've complained about all year. There wasn't anything different about this. The challenge was just harder for him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I'm frustrated. It gets worse, too, because we come out of this game, by the way. Sterling Shepard hurt his quad. Looked really, really bad. I thought he tore his ACL, the way he was writhing in pain on the ground. We have no update on that other than Joe Judge saying... this is a Dan Duggan tweet. I thought it was funny. He said that Judge says that it's not too bad, which in the Joe Judge lexicon actually means that it's kind of bad and he's going to miss some time. Dante Pettis hurt his shoulder. I thought he broke his wrist the way he was cradling his arm. Kadarius Toney lacerated his thumb. He's probably fine. Going to have to maybe have apparently it's a severe laceration, or at least severe enough to take him off the. I don't know if he could catch real well after that.
Digging deeper and deeper into the wide receiver depth, and now
right.
we're getting into, Joe the Plumber playing soon. It's getting that bad.
Yeah, and we learned today, Thursday, that we have some close contact COVID guys. Running back coach Burton Burns is tested positive. I believe he actually is positive, which means Saquon Barkley tested positive. I believe he needs to retest negative twice in 24 hours or something like that. It's not believed that him, Skura, or Xavier McKinney actually have it. I don't think they're not exhibiting any symptoms. I think they just tested positive also. They'll be retested. So we'll see. I wasn't real optimistic that Barkley was going to play this week anyway. So,
something it's pretty amazing. We're talking 16, 17 months after this pandemic hit, and these guys are still getting swabbed on a daily basis for the test. I mean, most of us have either been vaccinated or the need for testing isn't what it was in the beginning of this, and we all remember what it felt like, and these guys are still on a daily basis getting it. And whew. Sorry for the sidebar, but it's just the thought of getting the swabbing every day.
The nose treatment.
Yeah. Couple of things I wanted to bring up just in my random notes, and it's a little bit about the Monday night experience. Two things. Okay. Did you watch the game with the Manning cast, or did you watch the regular broadcast?
Regular broadcast for me.
Regular broadcast. I don't like the Monday night crew, so
I don't either. But I need to focus. The Manning thing is too distracting.
And that's why I was going to ask, because I started with the Manning cast and I quickly switched over because it's if the game I'm not don't care that much about, I think it's great. But again, you're right. When I need information. But then as soon as they go to the Jon Stewarts in the world, which, I don't understand for 30 years why anybody thinks he's funny to begin with, but you just completely get distracted, and so I had to go back to the other guys. And my second question for you is, what do you think about Louis Riddick?
I think he's actually stupid. I think he's a smart guy, but he is ready to just say things at the risk of sounding dumb. I was actually getting frustrated on the opening drive for the Chiefs. I just bloviated on Patrick Graham on how great of a game he called and how he's held them to 20 points, one of 3 teams to hold them to 20 points or less this year. The opening drive, I heard them say, I'm not seeing the Giants get any pass rush. If you watch that friggin' drive, Patrick Mahomes is getting rid of the ball in literally 2 seconds. They were all screens and short passes. He didn't throw anything deep. So what pass rush were you expecting? It was did you have that written down ready to say? Because I have no idea what you expect of any pass rush in the league. Von Miller isn't interrupting 1 second passes. They're screen passes, bro. You can say generally that the defense isn't doing well because they were moving down the field. Fine. But if you want to focus on the pass rush, you have to at least say, well, they're not getting home kind of because they're getting the ball out quick. That's not just an important factor. It's 99% factor.
Louis Riddick, I mean, he's like a hooker waiting for Fleet Week to come in. He's so desperate to sell himself to become a GM. I mean, it's insane.
He even referenced something he said as scout language or something at one point.
He is extremely bitter he didn't get the Giants job. And he's had a chip on his shoulder ever since he got into the Monday Night booth about the Giants. He never has a good word to say about him. I think part of it is because of that, and I just think I just think he's that smart. And maybe it's because he's just trying to create better TV content or trying to make a name for himself or whatever. But he was saying some things like, how come in a goal line situation, where's Evan Ingram? Why isn't he on the field? And literally half a second later, Evan Ingram catches a touchdown pass. It's like you just sound like an asshole. And he's I mean, if Gettleman decides to retire or they fire him or whatever, of course you're going to hear on who should be on the short list for the next GM, and his name's going to be on there, and there's no reason to. I mean, the guy, he's just another one of these talking heads. It's just people just assume he's smart because people tell you that he's smart. But just listen to a broadcast, and you come away very unimpressed.
I mean, I find everyone on that broadcast pretty unimpressive. I mean, we have guys circling the wrong players, saying things that don't make any sense. I think it's interesting that the Name in Sports network is the worst at NFL coverage.
And then when he does us, I remember he circled somebody with the huge pass rush. Oh, wait a minute, I circled the wrong guy. He
was on the wrong side of the line, and okay, mistakes happen, and the best. Chris Collinsworth will make that mistake from time to time, and I think him and Tony Romo are some of the best at analyzing in real time. But I mean, you notice a trend. You know what I mean? Just like we noticed a trend with Troy Aikman saying absolutely nothing. You notice a trend with ESPN saying nothing. First of all, the broadcast drives me crazy because, I don't see any reason why in football, when you're not playing up-tempo, why you can't give me a replay after every single play. It's a very stop-and-go game. It's not soccer. I don't need and I understand this is for the national audience, but I don't need after every play a big giant graphic about whatever and stats and can I watch the game I'm trying to watch?
And you mentioned soccer. If you watch a Premier League broadcast or something, if there's a shot or something, a shot on goal or an offsides, they can go to the replay within seconds. Mm-hmm. It's amazing how fast they can go back and replay it again. It's so much faster than American football or something. So the technology is there that they can do something like that. The other thing that bothers me about their broadcast is that Riddick and Greasy sound exactly the same.
They do. I thought that was just me.
No, it's just it's Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and I can't tell which one is which. And Levy doesn't have that voice. I mean, he's a better hockey guy than he is for football, but you need a voice. You need I can't stand Chris Fowler on college football because he doesn't have that voice, and the voice. For everybody who criticizes Joe Buck, he has that.
He has the voice. I think Kevin Burkhardt has the voice.
Burkhardt has the voice.
I don't know that he has anything else. I mean, he's all right.
Jim Nantz has the voice. Pat Summerall had the voice. Vin Scully has the voice. Kevin Harlan. They sound like Dick Enberg from back in the day. Guys, when you hear their voice, it's a big game because they're doing the big game, and it just is a memorable, timbre to their voice and inflection, and they get it.
Timbre. It's pronounced timbre.
Or timber. Maybe they've been, inhaling a bunch of wood. I don't know. But, with these guys, they just – Levy is not a football guy. It distracts because it makes Monday Night Football seem less and less important by the lack of quality announcers. Now, I'm not watching Monday Night Football specifically for an announcer, but I want them to be up to the task of what they're doing. Monday night, there's better games now on Sunday night. I get it. The Thursday night games are getting better, but when you think about it when you were a kid, Monday night is the big night. And
I remember putting on games that had nothing to do with anything. It was I want to see John Elway on Monday Night Football. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I remember that. I think the formula is right. I like the idea that they have, or they fucked it up because they haven't casted it right, but the idea of having the Manning cast to bring in an audience that has no interest in the game itself and its result. Mm-hmm. To find something they clearly like football, and something entertaining on top of it for a game that means nothing. That's a way to draw an audience like me, because I don't usually watch Monday Night Football, and I have been.
Oh, and, I guess it's the double-edged sword with that, because you are going to an audience that's not X's and O's. They're not gamblers. They're just.
But that's fine. That's fine. That's why you have the two. Then you have your real broadcast. The problem for them is that the real broadcast, their guys in the booth are still wrong, and they haven't gotten it right in a while.
Well, my problem with the Manning broadcast is that, okay, they are two smart guys, and they have a great chemistry as brothers. And this is a Disney thing that goes from Good Morning America to ABC to ESPN to everything. It's bringing in people that have nothing to do with what you're watching to promote other shit in their, in
their universe. They're yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I don't need to hear Jon Stewart for anything. Why is he on this broadcast? Charles Barkley, zero interest in what his football takes are. Why is he on there? It's just they have this thing where if I just throw the kitchen sink at you, you'll be interested and you'll want to watch. And it's distracting. I turned it off. Okay, again, it's a Giant game, and I need to know more information about what I'm watching, but I don't need to hear, again, like a Jon Stewart or a singer or something stupid. They just get in their own way.
I agree 100% with that. Like, especially when you're plugging your own shit. It's like Disney owns half the universe, so they bring on somebody to plug something on whatever network. That's really annoying. I make exceptions for famous people that are entertaining and interesting, that actually are knowledgeable about the sport, and they exist.
They exist.
I didn't watch the Manning cast for this one, so I don't know what Jon Stewart said or didn't said. I think it's possible that. And I don't blame you.
Joke, and I aborted.
I get it. But if Jon Stewart went on there and he was like, I really don't know about this, I don't know how I feel about Joe Judge, but and he had some kind of level of insight, like he's interested in this team or this game, or maybe he's a Chiefs fan. He's from New Jersey. I assume he's a Giants fan.
For that, who's a civilian, not like a sports, not a reporter, not an analyst, anything, but he's a regular.
The actor, John Hamm?
Yeah. But he's not part of sports, but he knows enough that to what your point is, to ask insightful questions or kind of.
But even if he's not, he might have something to add. You know what I mean? Like to the like, and also be entertaining on the side, and that's totally cool. I'm into that for every game that has nothing to do with the Giants, because remember, you have to understand, ESPN knows that there's people who are like, I'm watching one Monday night game this year. It's the one we're playing in, and that's that. You know who that is? That's me, because I hate their broadcast.
But you're not watching the Manning broadcast for that. This is something.
But I am for all the other games, because I actually do find it interesting. I have at least portions of it, at least, and that's what they're aiming for. They got me from nothing to something, right?
Yeah.
So
I would go and I'll watch the Manning broadcast. Usually the first quarter is the strongest quarter.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, if Jimmy Buffett's in the studio or on the air, it's like, well, I'm out. I'll go back to the other guys. So my interest kind of wanes the longer it goes.
I think it's not going to last. I think part of the problem is that they had the right idea, but they had no oversight, and so they've had flubs, with Marshawn Lynch and things like that. And to your credit, if Jon Stewart said nothing and he just plugged his thing and was kind of useless on the air, then that's a flub too. I mean, people see through that shit. So, I think because they didn't handle it completely right from the beginning, it might end up going. Especially since Eli Manning is kind of in demand. I'm sure Peyton Manning is also in demand to do other things.
Well, remember, this is Peyton Manning's production company does this.
Oh, did not know that.
He sold this idea to ESPN. He owns that show.
Oh shit!
So that's
pretty
genius. Cool. He gets to do Monday night without having to go through the grind of traveling 17 weeks. Like Louis Riddick is on the road 17 weeks in a row to all over the country. Peyton and Eli get to do it from their their basements.
Yeah, that's
and
pretty cool.
Because they're kind of just ripping on the game, they don't have to put in the hours and hours and hours of work that Riddick does, or probably should be doing, because he screws things up a lot. But it's a full-time job being an analyst. I remember one time I was on a plane going to Minneapolis for a Rays game, and Kenny Albert was sitting across from us on the plane. And he had done something the night before, and he was, he had this binder like this big. He spent that entire flight prepping for the Rays game. Now, I doubt he knows Rays Twins like he does Yankees Red Sox, but he has to be, and he always sounds professional. It's not him just being a genius and just knowing who the second baseman is for the Twins. It's him preparing. But that's the type of broadcast he does. He's a play-by-play guy who's going to give you X's and O's and give you analysis and stuff. Peyton and Eli are just kind of, like I said, they're riffing. They're commenting just purely on what they're seeing in front of them.
Yeah, and honestly, I find that more insightful. I don't really want them to do research on guys and tell me things I can just Google. Like I want to know what their thoughts are in game, reacting to the situation. I want to know what if there's downtime. I want to know what personal stories they have that they can give insight to, like on the field shit, in the huddle stuff. You know what I mean? That's interesting to me. I don't want them to be Kenny Albert. No. So I think it's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna call this one. We'll be back, Friday for our preview game for the Raiders, 1:00 at MetLife. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter. I'm at @football_Grump. He's at the Cranky Fan. The show is at Just Giants Pod. And tell your friends. So we will see you guys tomorrow, I guess. All right.
We'll see you on Friday. Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Go Giants.
Go Giants.